Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of Family Dinner Podcast. I am in Austin with Ben and Liz, so that's so fun for me to be here visiting. And Jared is actually cooking dinner. We're recording this during the dinner hour. And we've got Heather and Josh that maybe we're just finishing dinner. So live, living it real coming at you. And today we're going to talk about how we are progressing through doing these conversations together, what we're learning, how it's strengthening our relationships, how we can continue to show up for one another. And we're going to also talk about an accountability piece that goes along with doing these. So, first of all, I would like to hear from everyone, just kind of tell me how doing these conversations, we started recording these back in October, I think.
6 months
And
ago.
yeah, we didn't share them until January, but we've been recording them since October. And Liz, I'm going to ask you,
She's gonna lead us off, eh?
yeah, how have
No.
how have these conversations been healing or changing or empowering? What has it felt like for you?
Um, yeah, I
Make
think
sure we can see in there.
there's quite a few things. I feel like one, I was just talking to someone about this, is like in the beginning of these podcasts, like I was so nervous to have these conversations. Like one, because I just didn't know what would unfold. Two, I was like, I don't really want to watch myself on camera and look back. And so watching them back it was like almost impossible for me to do. Like I would just be like, oh, like cringing, watching. And now it's like I don't get nervous at all. I can watch it and I'm not even really thinking about it in that way of like, oh, I made a weird face or whatever. So I think that's cool just to show that like one, doing something uncomfortable is only uncomfortable for so long usually, right? It's like if you keep doing it, eventually it becomes the norm for you. So
Mhm.
that's I think been huge for me because there have been so many things in my life that I've resisted doing because it's scary or uncomfortable. So it's like doing something like this, one, it's helpful to have like the support, right? I'm not doing it alone, but also like I think that's allowing me space to be able to do more things like that because I'm like having practical like
Experience. Yeah.
experience with that and being able to like see it, in like
Yeah.
a pretty short, I mean, that happened probably after like three or four doing it. I mean, each time I felt a little more comfortable, but it's like by the third or fourth one, I wasn't even thinking
Yeah.
about it as being a big
Yeah.
thing that I had to do. Um,
So when you think about how we've had some kind of hard conversations, right? We've talked about divorce, religion, reparenting, how maybe the girls were parented differently than the boys, several other things that were maybe difficult or emotional.
mhm.
How do you think those have, or have they benefited you?
Yeah, I think one, like, I mean, because we have a lot of different conversations in our family, anyways, but I think the difference is like staying on a specific topic for an extended period of time. You're able to allow space for each person to like sort of get into more of a flow state, I think, and be able to like kind of uncover maybe things they didn't even know about themselves. And then you're also witnessing that live and getting to like know each person a little bit more. I feel like a, it's brought a lot more awareness around certain things about myself and maybe like reasons of why I have certain like patterns or behaviors. I will say it's made me like want to get a therapist more because it's like, yes, we are bringing it up, but we're not, necessarily trained in how to like actually move through it or like having certain tools. So it's like, in a way, it's brought a lot to the surface,
Hmm.
which is good because it's moving things, but I've reached a point where I'm like, okay, I need some like help kind of like moving past it
Mm,
in a way.
yeah.
Cool.
What about you, Ben? Same questions.
Well, I want to ask after I go, I feel like there's more to Liz, isn't there?
Yeah, well, we've
Liz
got
is
lots more
Liz is
questions.
living her best life, so I feel
Yes.
like, and part of it like is because of this.
Yeah.
Um, but like for me, when I was thinking about this question, um, yeah, I'm interested to hear everyone's response, but like for me, it's been a lot of things have just clicked into place with a lot of other things that have been happening in my life of like even just like the conversation that we haven't released with dad, we're not sure if we will. But one of those realizations that I can just share for me personally was I didn't even realize that I thought the opposite of this, but like I remember is after Jared being vulnerable and I was literally just sobbing. I was like just sobbing.
And this was in the conversation with Dad?
Yeah, like I like those cries were just pure, just like
Yeah, heaving
yeah, and it was like I mean if it's painful, but it's like it hurts so good. And then after it's just like, whoa,
a
I get it.
release.
But the thought that came through was my dad loves me.
Mm.
And I didn't even realize it. I didn't logically I could have said, yeah, my dad loves me, but like I didn't know subconsciously that I doubted that. And so like that thought, like I felt it, it literally felt like a piece of my heart just like just like it like came together.
Mm.
And another similar moment was in the religion episode, wasn't it?
Hmm.
When Josh opened up and then everyone opened up and held that space for me at the end of that episode. So, like, I didn't, it's just because it becomes like for me, it was just my familiar and just my normal thing. Like, it was no big deal for me. And then everyone just saying, like, oh, yeah, like that must have been hard. And then that part of me was actually like, oh, it was hard.
So explain, what do you mean by it was the familiar? You mean doing this kind of thing?
No, so like when you left the Mormon religion and then everyone else is out of the house and it was just me. Um, right? So it's like I lose like a lot of solid ground.
Mhm.
And then so that was really difficult for me. So that was my normal. I didn't know that it was this like to me because it's just obvious to me. So I didn't realize
How much of a loss it was?
how difficult it actually was. So everyone normalizing that to me. Like
Mm.
I remember the first time I went to therapy, it was in 2019, and it was when I had moved across the country and like all these things had happened as what we call like the dark night of the soul. And I was like, like I don't know why I'm depressed. And the guy was just like, he just like, no, it actually makes complete sense. Just like all these things that have happened just like over and over and over and over of so just like that normalizing it. And then um so for me personally, those are the things that I just feel like a lot has made sense. And I feel like I'm showing up more as a leader. I feel like my attachments are more secure. We even did an episode-ish about that, I believe. Um,
About reparenting. Yeah, it's the reparenting
and
episode.
then also just like learning so much about everyone. Like even the last episode we recorded about like our homes,
Mhm.
just like little nuances like that has been really cool just to get like I feel like as I know each person better, I get to know more about myself.
Mhm.
Mhm. And so we don't forget this important thing that Ben alluded to, something that's happened to Liz since we've started recording this podcast.
Yes.
Lean in.
What is funny because on the first episode, like when we're introducing ourselves, like when I introduce myself, Jared's like, "She's single." Um, and so yeah, I am not anymore. I have I have found a partner, a gentleman, a suitor.
Yes.
Suta.
A
Um,
wonderful man. Yes.
yes. And yeah, it is interesting because it's like I feel like that's what happens when you like kind of create movement, right? I think I like having a partner that's like a secure person that's like emotionally intelligent and like has all of these values that are like that are values for me and just like has all these characteristics that like I knew were important, but even more than I even like thought that I wanted, that it's like it just it like that happened, and then it just feels like a lot of big changes have happened, like, and I think when you're kind of creating like, I mean, it's part of it is these conversations, but it's like part of it is just it creates movement,
Like the
right?
snowball effect
Like
or
it's
something.
like
Yeah.
then you kind of it's like I was talking about things and then it creates like other ways I'm taking action or like a
Mhm.
different way of I think really it like made me be like show up in the world differently.
Mm.
And that is what then like attracted or like made that able to happen. And then it's like we're going to Europe next month together, which also is like a lifelong dream. So it's like these like dreams are happening, but it's like it's because I had like shifted in a different way and was like showing up in a different
Mhm.
way. That was a result of like having vulnerable conversations and showing up for myself too, you know?
Mhm.
So I think that's just a really cool note of what you said of like, I hope the 10 people watching, hopefully this encourages you to go have conversations, whether it's with your family, friends, yourself, or whatever, but also just like what you said, Liz, of like, I feel like it doesn't have to be this type of setting, obviously, but like just doing the thing that that's so basic, but for a lot of people, it's not basic of like, do the scary thing.
And
That's what creates like, it's literally just like a dam that you just broke open. And so it's like, woof.
So
exactly.
true.
It's a cycle, right? Because then you hit the next
Damn.
damn, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's not like that will, but then you'll feel that. And I think the more you do it, the more
Mhm.
you have that like, oh, this is I know this feeling. I know what
Mhm.
happens like
Lean
when if
into it.
I gotta lean into it, right? And then the more you do it, which I think is like what you've done, right? Like you started, but like you've become really comfortable with that feeling, but it doesn't mean that it necessarily gets easier. You just like know what it means, right? And it's like even understanding different feelings for myself of like, oh, this is a pattern of mine, like lean into it rather than just like like just like creating more stagnancy and just like blocking it because it's
Mhm. Mhm.
uncomfortable, which is fine to do for a while, but I find you just get more and more
Mhm.
uncomfortable until you do something.
And I want to hear from all of you on these same questions. But then after that, we're going to share with our audience why it is we're able to have these conversations. So kind of be thinking about that. So Heather, Josh, or Jared, which one of you want to go next and share maybe any transformation you felt or any strength or any breaking open of the dam like these two just shared? Maybe the emotional dam.
Share your dams.
Damn it. Filling Grandma Harris with me. So for me, I feel like I kind of want to say mine is slower. Uh, and that I have felt a lot of shifting in the background of my life. And because I have five other humans also connected to me, even though like two of them are very much like out on their own in a lot of ways, I feel this, um, yeah, like there definitely are shifts coming in my life, but I'm also doing it differently. Um, and so it will be interesting to see what that looks like.
So, Heather, could you speak to that a little bit more on what you think? Because I do think there's also a generational component to this. Like
Mm,
you're a different generation than Ben and Liz, right? They're in their 30s. You, Jared, and Josh are in your 40s. I'm in my 60s. So I also feel that it's been different for me than I think it has been for them. And
yeah,
I'm curious as to why. If it is generational, what do you think about that?
I would say there probably are less blocks, like for Ben and Liz, because they are younger.
We're less effed up
That's
or
a good
more.
way
I
to
don't
put
know.
it. I I mean, I would agree with that. I feel like even, in my witnessing with like my own friends, my clients, I feel like there are definitely generational things. Of course, there's always exceptions, but I do think that a lot of youth can receive truth and change really quickly. Like when they are open. Which I feel like
That's
what
actually a good point.
I feel like whatever creates that safe space, which I feel like that is a lot of what this did for all of us, is created a safe space to just share with each other. And so I feel like how that's like trickling into and rippling, right, in so many different directions. It's hard to track unless you are really good at, seeing the past and the future and all of those things, which I would say sometimes I am. But like for me, I guess talking about myself personally and my own inner journey, there is this, I'm just more aware of all the subtleties of how much I've blocked myself from being myself. And so, I think that was probably okay. I wasn't expecting emotions, but um I think that was hard for me. Yeah, and yeah, I know we've talked about this before, but I guess it's coming up. So for me, this having a hard time being myself at home now, however many years later, I am reorienting to like my own heart, my own soul, and instead of like being outwardly like, oh, this is what this person thinks I should be. This is what my partner thinks I should be. This is what my children think I should be. This is what my teacher, whatever. Like, I've just realized how much I've oriented to other things, whether
And
it's,
other identities. I think that's one of the most challenging things of life, though, is we all
Mm,
have different identities.
yeah,
And
for
there
sure.
is like an expectation for each of those.
Yeah, and there's more than one. Yeah. So I think it's just this like reorienting taking place, but it's like there's like all these pieces of me that have been scattered, and I'm like kind of like reorganizing and also like, oh yeah, I really need to like get my shit together. And it's because I feel like in some of the parts that I've been avoiding that I haven't because I haven't looked at it, I feel like it is taking time. And that's okay. Like I'm okay with that. Like I don't need to like, jump in the deep end, even though that's usually what I do when change is concerned.
So then you haven't seen as much personal like breakthroughs or aha. Is that what you're saying? As you feel like
I
these,
wouldn't say it's like as big of shifts as I feel like Liz and Ben have felt.
Mhm.
I feel like I've seen more shifts in like the subtleties of like different patterns, different like little choices and habits. And I'm more willing to just like acknowledge it without judging it and just being like, okay, like, and sometimes not even trying to change it. I feel like part of it is just like being able to see myself and all of it and how I've related to each of you and like being okay and not like clinging, whether you want to call it an identity or like a definition of what our relationship needs to like look like.
Because I know you did tell me one time that you felt like it's helped you feel closer to some
Hmm.
of your siblings having these conversations.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean I guess I forgot about that part, but
That's why I
I
try and
love you
pay
guys.
attention.
Thanks, Mom. Yeah. I do feel like, I mean, even just, I feel like Jared, oh no. Sorry, I'm about to start my period, so hello, internet. That's
He's not
I'm
now.
like,
in this moment.
Right now. It's all releasing.
Speaking
Um,
of a dam bursting.
every month, every month. Um, I feel like I realized how much Jared carried um, when you first got divorced, and just how much he was doing. Um, I actually am going through my box of high school stuff, so that was fun. But in there, there's actually a welcome home poster that Jared had made. Like he had printed it on like, just like the long paper that you just connect it. It was like really long, like welcome home, Heather. I'd been in Hawaii for a week. And he had like made this poster, and I was just uh I guess the emotion is just feeling gratitude um for all that you did, Jared. Um and it feels like just a lot of love. There's a lot of love that you shared at that time with everyone. So thank you.
So I feel like I'm
You're
missing
welcome, Heather. Thanks
something.
for saying that.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm missing something. So I wasn't on the call when you all talked to Dad,
Hmm.
and I've been told that Jared became very emotional.
Hmm.
He hasn't done
You don't get to know about it, Mom. You can't
at
know
his
about
house. So
it. Can't
is
know
this
about it.
so is this kind of when that became more
Next
apparent,
question.
do you think, Heather? That Jared
I
carried
don't
a
think
lot is
so.
during
A
that
little
No.
time?
bit.
Last
I
one.
mean,
I
maybe
was
a
a
little.
little. Do you know what's funny is I was a little surprised when you said that too, Heather. But yeah, I connected it the longer you talked. I think she was talking last time just how I said I took Ben and Liz trick or treating.
Well,
And the thought that came, Heather, yeah, yeah. And the thought that came into my mind is like, oh yeah, I took them trick or treating. I also like dangled them down into the window wells a lot and called it the pit.
You tied him up. You tied him up a
I
lot.
tied them up.
He teased them all the time.
Yes,
You practiced.
I acted as a
You're
13 and
not.
14-year-old parent would.
Try and get out of this knot this time. Son of a gun. Try it again. Try this
Because
time.
mom isn't going to be home. And so guess who's in charge?
Yeah, would tie us up and leave. I'd be like, all right, well, if you want to go do something, you got to get out of this knot.
That's
You had a
true.
fascination with
That's
tying me up.
true.
I remember like you wanting to like tie me up to like a chair. Maybe it's just like maybe that was the
Tie me up, tie me down stage of Jared.
well, maybe it was like I don't know if other generations go through that, but I feel like it was like MacGyver driven, right? Like kind of like how you play like cops and robbers type stuff, you know? Like I don't know,
MacGyver for sure was an influence for you guys.
but just like that, like if it was like because you play like good guys, bad guys, right? And so like I don't know, like I haven't seen like and Jones is only 9, almost 10, but I mean he doesn't have a brother close. I don't know. I don't
But
know.
he loves Home Alone, like,
Yeah.
so, and I feel like it's that same kind of like the tricks and things, like
Yeah.
being
and Goonies.
Ben,
Yeah.
did you ever tie up Liz?
he
didn't tie you up, no.
he would
I'm trying to.
beat me up.
Would I beat you up?
No.
We would fight. We would physically fight.
But you're the one who started it, right?
Hopefully our our podcast will get widely popular, and all these people will come to Jared's restaurant and be like, "Oh yeah, I tie my siblings up all the time."
And then we feel validated and seen.
So Josh or Jared, can you share next?
Well,
How?
wait,
Oh, sorry.
Heather, I
Yeah,
felt
what were
like
you saying? What brought that, Heather?
yeah.
I feel like for me that was also like lots of puzzle pieces, I guess. I didn't it,
And that
yeah,
finding that sign probably, it sounds like that was
well, like
something.
that sign, and I feel like last time like hearing about your memories, and I think yes, like there was parts of like talking to dad and some of the things that you were experiencing, and then I feel like there's just little things you've shared every time, like just your different memories that I mean, and I feel like this has happened really with me for each of you because I guess like being the oldest in some ways I have watched you, grow and experience things, but of course you also experience things from like your own perspective. And so I guess I guess it's just a culmination of really all of your shares that like I guess just mm, yeah, there has been something where I have like always felt protective of you too in a way. And so I guess seeing what you were doing perhaps when you were also experiencing like, like being alone and like suffering in your own way, that you were like also very kind and loving apart from, torturing your siblings, but yeah. So I guess there's just like there's gratitude and I guess seeing each of you in a new light, but for some reason I guess Jared there is um I guess just a new perspective of gratitude. So I couldn't say just one thing, but it just
Thanks for that, Heather.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Heather.
I appreciate
You're welcome.
you pointing that out. Jared or Josh, who's next? What have you found? Have you found either one of you that you've had any big ahas?
Yeah, I can go. Yeah, it is interesting to think. I assume Josh is more on the spectrum of me and Heather, just guessing, than Ben and Liz. Yeah, I wonder if that's like age, or if it's generational, or if it's like how young we were, like our ages when you guys split up, and the way that we've processed things. But yeah, I feel similar to Heather in that, yeah, I feel like I haven't had any big aha moments. I mean, aside from that thing with dad, and I did talk to you a little bit about that, mom, um, separately. But I think, I mean, I definitely feel, um, like just better. You know, I've I feel like mom, you maybe said this one time, or if I heard this on a podcast one time or something. Um, Ben maybe even said it, but something about like work, that working on yourself never ends. And I think that there's something nice about this method, like feels a little bit easier, maybe, like it is scary for sure. Like I think I felt the same as Liz, like I was nervous at the beginning, like I wasn't sure if it would work, you know. Um, and I think we all agree that, podcasts aside, it's weird how, I guess that does actually add a little extra element to recording, but even if we weren't recording, like just these conversations are nice. But I mean, I guess we did do this during COVID a little bit, where we would do calls
Yeah.
and FaceTime. But anyways, I'm being very scattered. Let me gather my thoughts a little bit. So I definitely have felt healthier, I guess. I feel like there's what I was thinking about that work, you know, I think it's just made me more introspective, and made me just thinking about that more often, whereas it's so easy in life to just do life, just like go through the motions and do the things, and you're not like really looking inside. And this is like a pretty pleasant way to look inside. And it has, yeah, it's like um I heard someone talk about this recently too, about the relationship you have with your siblings and with your family, with your partner, with your spouse. There's like pressure. I feel like, there's a lot of pressure in that relationship to like be healthy and show up for the other person. And in a family, there like that pressure is there, but it's not the same. I guess it's less, and I think it's just a nice way to have these promptings of, oh, let me look at this, let me look at that, and be able to um talk about it in depth with you guys, but then keep working through it offline. And I think I think in the same way Liz has seen progress, I think that we will all be able to note things like that. Maybe we haven't had, with Liz, it seems to be, I'm sure she was working up to it in other ways. It wasn't all, it was mostly because of us, but it wasn't all because of us. And I think, but I'm sure there will be ripples for all of us, like that we could probably track to like this specific time, even, and I think we all want to keep doing it, but even just like the beginning of it, like there's like just like a release of something. And yeah, because yeah, that word again, it's like, yeah, I feel healthier, I feel more open, I feel, yeah, just more willing to talk it talk through things and look at things.
I love that, Jared. Thank you. I like the word intentional too. I feel like these conversations have been intentional, something that Liz said, right? We're focusing on a certain subject. But I feel like the fact that we were intentional about hitting the record button and sharing this public, that was intentional. Being vulnerable because we thought, well, if our conversations can help others, we're willing to do that. I mean, we don't know if, yeah, there's just 2, 3, 10 people watching this, it doesn't matter. But I think the intention is if it helps others, great. I think it is helping us in ways that we've mentioned before, that all of you as siblings together, I think it must be easier, right, to talk to me about things or like to approach dad like you did privately on that call. I'm sure that has got to felt. Do you think that was like strength in numbers, kind of in a way, to do it together as a team with your parent versus just you yourself doing it?
I think, I mean, probably with dad, I'm guessing I've had a couple conversations like that. I mean, nothing like that, because I think it takes all of us to do that.
All that energy to have
Yeah, and then
that.
like all the different like perspectives and just like there's just so much, yeah, energy, momentum, emotion that it's like it's just gonna go.
Mhm.
But for the conversation with that, I'd say for sure with I don't think I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's yeah, like all of us combined, like you can't recreate that.
Also, I felt like, I don't know if you guys felt this, but during Dad's conversation, I felt like when each of you were talking, I like saw your like child selves. Like something about in that, I don't know why, but each time I was like listening to you, I like felt like I could like see you as a kid again or something.
Yeah. Has anyone rewatched that yet?
Did you send it to him?
Mm-mm. Have you?
Not the whole thing.
But
Not
some?
not my part.
Everything but your part?
Well, I'm gonna watch my part.
Okay. I know I will watch it too. I haven't seen it yet, but like it's gonna be an undertaking, I feel,
Yeah.
in a good way.
Okay, Josh.
Tis I. Um, has doing this podcast helped me? I think
Or
the answer,
changed you, or had you have a breakthrough in any way?
um, no, I think do feel similar to like Jared and Heather. Um, where I do feel like there is some motion in my soul. Um, you know, I enjoy these, or I enjoy this conversation very much. Like I have never feared it. I don't ever have anxiety about it. I enjoy this conversation. Um, have I had a breakthrough? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I've always been introspective on my own. And so what I've been thinking about, how has this helped me? I think this um help it has helped me.
Has it
I don't
helped you
know.
understand your siblings better?
Yes, yeah, like but I mean that's what I was joking gonna say, like it's helped me help you. Uh, um but no,
But
I
that
think
does help relationships, right? If you
yeah.
understand the other more.
Yeah, no, I mean it like I said, it's been thoroughly enjoyable. And I think that similar to Jared as well, like it has like I've been more I think it's the word like contemplative. I don't know where the syllables or accents are in that word contemplative.
Yeah.
Um
Contemplative.
contemplative, contemplative, contemplative. Um and so um yeah, I don't know. Like the thing that's coming up and as I've thought about is like I've just enjoyed it,
Cool.
and um, if I am bearing it all here and being honest, I do. It is um, yeah, it just feels like there's something churning within me, um, and I don't know what it is. Maybe yeah, no, maybe it'll pop someday. Um,
And you'll have your own podcast.
no, I don't, no, it could just be like the cyclical nature of life too. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Even getting on today, I was like, oh, we haven't talked in what 2 weeks. I'm like, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It's gonna just be nice to talk to everybody, see how everybody's doing, have meaningful conversation. But as I look at the whole of it, like that, I think there's been like there's been release, there's been emotional connection, and in 3 minutes I'm trying to say, okay, where is that all? Like, how do I put all of it into one? And it's hard because I know I'm going to miss stuff, but like how I'm feeling right now is, and again, I don't know, I don't want to put this on our conversations that we're having, but it's like there is something churning within me, and it's not darkness, you know, but it is like that contemplation of like who am I? Um, what am I doing? And it's not, I don't know, like that's just the stuff that's coming out right now. And I don't know if that's podcast related, but um I felt this shift probably about like 3 or 4 weeks ago. Um, and it's not, I don't know. I'm making it sound like an identity crisis, but it's not. It's just like, it's kind of questioning like the things that I wanted. Like, were those really the things that I wanted? You know? Um, and that short answer to that is I don't know.
Cool.
I'm
Still,
curious if you think it has anything to do with kind of having these life reviews, though. Because we have reviewed our lives in depth. Like even last week, or our last podcast where we talked about all the places we've lived, right?
yeah.
and talking about so many different things, there has been somewhat of a life review. So I can see how that would maybe have you questioning, like, am I where I want to be?
Yeah, but it's not. I don't even. It's not even
It's not that, huh?
because when I think about, hey, because in my life, like it's pretty good. Like even but I feel good.
Hmm.
Like I feel like my life is full. And so like that's actually, I think part of the thing is like, oh, like my life is full, but I'm not doing these things that I thought I was wanted to be doing. So it's like that, like it's kind of like this weird contradiction of that I think I'm just coming to understand. Um,
You have the ups and downs, right? The
yeah,
cycles. Life is cyclical. And I think for all of us, that's one benefit, bringing it back to the podcast, that I like about these conversations. And maybe this is why we can have these conversations, is because you feel like you can share that. And we, I think, are all interested, right? And we're like going, wow, I can relate to that in different ways. Or, what are you learning at this stage? And is it just to have more grace for yourself instead of having kind of this unrealistic bar of, because I think Jared has shared that with his life, kind of where he is right now. He doesn't feel maybe as ambitious as he once did and wants kind of more contentment. Is that true, Jared?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, it's funny. I identified a lot with what Josh said and was going to ask the room if, to me, that just feels like part of getting older, right? Like you just get more content. And yeah, like, I mean, there's still lots of things I want to do, like I'm constantly thinking about things I want to do in film but they're mostly selfish. They're mostly like, oh, I want to, you know, like make documentary, like I want to do things that are interesting to me. Like I don't necessarily care what the result is of those things, but I want to interview people and hear their stories. Um, and yeah, I mean, uh, it's nice. It's a nice season of life to feel content in lots of ways. I think, and I think too, like I've just become more aware of it. I mean, I think it's like kind of a natural shift, but it's kind of like all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, like I don't care as much about recognition or someone saying, I think a lot, I measured success through other people's eyes.
Thanks for sharing. And like, even just to wrap up, I think Josh, what you said of like, of how this has been helpful to me, that was just very evident of how it's been helpful. Even it was a meta example of like just processing that or sharing that. And just to validate you, there's lots of people feeling similar to you, right? Even in my own way, feeling that. Um, and also, it would be interesting because it's obviously hard to see ourselves. If we had viewers or listeners, it'd be fun for them to like, here's how I see you differently, right? Of like from episode 1 to episode 8, 9, 10, wherever we're at. Like that would be cool too. Because there's obviously been like not just the big shifts, but the subtleties behind the scenes. Like for sure, it'd be impossible for there not to be some type of shift or progress or result.
Hmm.
So, Mom, I think, because that was the question I wanted to ask you, is like, why can we do this? Because that's like, I'm not sure if you guys still talk to people about this, but like, we were meeting with friends we haven't seen in months. And I told them that we are doing a family podcast, and it literally like stops the room. Like, everyone's like, what? And then like everyone leans in and like, tell me about it. And like, I sent like an episode. And just because like, mentioned this before, but how rare it is that every single person would be on board for it. And so that one, they asked like, whose idea was it? I say mom's. And then two years later, like, why do we think that? I think I don't know if everyone needs to respond, but I think that would be, I'm guessing probably the other side, the viewers probably also wondering that too.
How are we able to do
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Right? Do you know how? What's your view?
I mean, part of it, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, do you know? Do we know? I don't know.
What I say is like, I remember, I mean, I think, yeah, it's like part of how you raised us, but even like through the conversation with dad, it made a lot of sense to me. I was like, oh, like I'll be honest, I always used to think like only this interest came from you, but it makes sense because I used to say like used to love staying up with dad, having deep conversations. I'm like, oh, like dad's like a great space holder and like listener and like can go deep. And so I saw a lot of myself in him, which was actually cool, to feel connected more to him. So, yeah, I think it's just, yeah, like there's probably multiple reasons, Heather.
Apparently it's like being uncomfortable for Heather. I actually like a few days ago, I didn't want to do this call today. Um, so that's interesting. Um,
Why?
That's good.
Real quick on that, Heather. That's what I was just thinking too. I was going to say, I think some of us didn't want to do it, or at least like we're scared to. I'll just speak for myself. Like I was skeptical and didn't feel, I guess, strongly enough to like say, no, I'm not going to do it. But I
This
kind
one?
of just thought like, oh, we'll do it once and it'll be kind of awkward and
This
or
call?
You mean the
Oh,
podcast in
just the
general?
podcast
in general.
Oh, in
Oh,
general.
yeah.
And it will be weird.
Like just at the beginning, I don't know, like that it would just like um yeah, that it would
You thought it would flop.
I mean that's a different metric, right? Like I don't know if we're measuring at this point we're not measuring the success of the podcast on subscribers and listeners. I think we're measuring it on our personal growth. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking
Yeah.
about today, right? And I
Mhm.
think in that way we all feel strongly that it has been a success.
So, Jared, why do you think we are able to do this and have this be
That's kind of what I'm
meaningful?
saying, because I'm saying like I think part of it, what Liz just said really kind of tricked like ticked something in me, do we know why? Like to me it almost seems like an accident. Like mom, like I think part of it is like you willed it to happen. Like you love talk to us, like watching you ask Josh questions like behind the scenes a little bit in my head. I'm like, part of what makes it interesting is like mom is learning about her son. Like she's genuinely interested in Josh's life. I don't give a crap, but Josh, just kidding. No, like, but I think that's what's at the core of this is like it's so special for you to get to know your children, and for us it's like a bonus. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we get this bonus of getting to know our siblings and getting to know you better and understanding ourselves better.
And I do want to say to you too, Jared told me something about kind of like what Heather said, like she feels closer to her siblings. And then Jared, when we were talking, you said, yeah, like for Ben and Liz to share some of the things, like specifically Liz, like he said, I didn't realize how much harder some of these things were for Liz, like the divorce, right? Like being and just kind of witnessing that. Like, and I think this also happens. Like, I have siblings that are a lot older than me. And so they didn't know what was going on in my life. They still maybe thought they did and thought they knew me, but they really weren't aware of what was going on because we didn't ever talk, right? Like this. I mean, I did with my sister Paula, but I think that's a key right there is that even when everyone lived in Utah, it's not like we were always talking about something really meaningful, like really coming to understand one another. And I feel like that is how we continue to support each other as we age, as we go through hard things, as our children grow, because we all are at different stages, right? Ben and Liz are, starting their families where you guys are all, well, oh yeah. The intention, right? Of when you find your mate, then it feels like more reality, maybe.
Well, Mom,
But don't you think that's part of it? Like you're getting to know each other. I'm here, and yes, I'm supporting and asking questions,
yeah,
but
for
for
sure.
me, the beautiful thing that I've witnessed is that you're all present for each other. And I literally feel like you all are getting to know each other, and there's some growth there
Yeah, for sure.
that wouldn't have
Jared,
been there
Jared,
otherwise.
Jared, before you go, Heather,
I know I was going to say
Thanks,
something.
Josh. I'm like shaking my legs
I was
because
trying
I'm
to
like, I really want to say this.
like we don't all have equal time like at a family thing, right? Or we're splitting off. But like this is a very like egalitarian like gathering where it's like we take there's a topic, right? And there's a moderator and we're taking turns. And there is something I think specific about that that you're not going to get in another setting. Heather.
Thanks, guys. Um, so
And
No.
I
Go,
feel like
Heather.
I feel like Heather always is the one that gets cut off.
yeah, one day maybe I'll
Yeah, look out,
turn
everybody.
into a lion and just, I don't know. Yeah. Um, so I get cut off because there's like long pauses between my words. Um, I don't know if I need to say all of the backstory other than I didn't really feel like coming because I had like a just really bad couple of days.
You want to talk about those days?
No. But um again, also like part of my monthly cycle as well, like just like coming down, that's like naturally happens. So it's like nice to acknowledge that like that's what happens, but like for whatever reason, like this month, like that drop in hormones was like extra like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I've been really consistent with my energy for like several months, but it was like just everything sort of like compounded and I just like couldn't quite like I guess like hold the same like energy. Um and so I guess I didn't necessarily want to like talk about that, but then like part of me was like also feeling alone. And for some, selfish, dumb reason, I wanted to like blame you guys. Um, but like what I realized was I feel like that's one of the big reasons we can also have these conversations is because we don't like blame each other. Like we don't hold, like I don't feel like, I mean, I know I don't, and I don't feel that way from like any of you for like anything that we did do or we didn't do. Like there is this like this openness to just like see each other like where we are. So I think that's to me that feels like a big reason like why we can talk and have these conversations because we're not holding each other responsible like for our own lives.
Oh, I
That
think
makes
that's
sense.
cool. Why are we able to do this? I think there isn't, the answers I don't know. I think, right, we've talked about this before. Is it nature? Is it nurture? And I think it's an element of both, right? I think naturally our personalities, um, like we're accepting of each other. We give each other grace, like Heather said, right? We don't blame each other. We're all like have, a little bit of mom and a little bit of dad, where like we're not super confrontational and we're not like I think we're also just like able to shrug things off, like, oh well, and so like that. I think that nature of all of us comes together really well to just have this conversation without like guilt or guile or anything like that. I think a lot of families come with like they have their baggage. Like we have baggage, but I don't think we come and are like going to exploit each other. And I don't think we have that fear. And I think that's as much as we were encouraged to speak growing up, but more so I think just in our um, personalities.
Well,
That's
yeah.
also a good point too about the baggage. Like we have typical baggage, but maybe not anything like, I mean, one of you said something like that we're not too judgmental of each other, and it's like, oh yeah, if like, um, if Heather was so mad at me because I got a free car from mom and she had to buy her car and she had a tattoo of a Honda Accord
On
shoulder.
my chest.
That's awesome.
Oh man, Jared got that free Honda Accord. But like something more drastic than that, right? Of like obviously families have real trauma and we have some.
Yeah, but
Wait, did I just figure out what our family crest is?
a Honda Accord,
A Honda logo.
a Honda logo with wings or something. But I think like this, the word, and I don't feel like it is, but I don't feel like we're petty.
Mm.
Like where I think like that's outside of family. Like there's just people that like in conversation, right? Like, like I think we have conversation, and then we might have one-off conversations where we might say something that we're not going to say with all of us here. I think that happens.
Also want to just cover one thing that I thought of about why we're able to do this with each other. And I think a big part of that is because I think we've all been doing our own work. I don't think you could have these conversations or the conversation you had with dad if, as individuals, you weren't doing your own work. And I think that might look different for each of us, right? I mean, I've had a lot more years of doing, different types of therapy or impact or, I mean, I've done a lot of different things, a lot of different classes. And I know Jared has done therapy. I know, Liz, she's been doing classes too recently. I mean, Ben and I have been to therapy. Ben and Josh and I have been to therapy. Heather and I went to therapy years ago with Jolie. I mean, I think those things are just steps, right? Kind of steps that may help. It doesn't mean we're done or we're finished or that's all there is to do. I think it's ongoing. But I think as we do things like Josh said, he's been introspective. He regularly writes in his journal. I mean, Heather's always doing classes. Heather coaches clients. Ben coaches clients. I think as you are just seeing it also in other people, you're also thinking it. I mean, don't you think when you're working with clients, you also that has a ripple effect in your own life?
Sure, always.
Yeah.
But I feel like a huge part of that is just like there are people who value growth
Yes.
and people that's just not a priority for them, and
Yeah.
that's okay. And like that, there's like different purposes but I think each one of us values growth enough
Yeah.
to want to show up for conversations like this
Yeah.
with each other and other people, even if it's uncomfortable. I think that's the
Yes.
key, because if you don't value it, there's no way you're going to show up to
Yes.
have an uncomfortable, vulnerable conversation.
Yes.
You'll avoid it at all costs
Yes.
until you're maybe just so uncomfortable
Yes.
that you like are almost like forced into it. And
Mhm.
even as someone who values growth, I still sometimes have to get to that
Mhm.
point.
Mhm.
But maybe my level of uncomfortable versus someone else's is just different,
Yes.
right?
And for me, sometimes I can be like overly into personal growth. I can make other people really uncomfortable because I like to get uncomfortable. So it is important to me that we have the progress in our relationships. I don't want it to ever be just like a status quo. Like I can't talk to you about this anymore. Or it's just not worth it. I don't ever want that. I want us to continue to grow and progress in our relationships.
Boom.
And we will.
And but yeah, maybe people are like, oh yeah, it's cool that they can do this. So what are some ideas that maybe people
Like how they could do it on their own, you mean?
yeah, or what's like a maybe like what's a lighter version of this, or how
Yeah.
could they, or even like we said, like there's uh things that we built up. I mean, maybe a first thing is like maybe it doesn't have to be with your whole family, right? If there's like one person that just won't do it. I mean, and obviously you could do it with part of your family. Another idea is to uh share share these guys, share these episodes and
Yeah.
say, hey,
It's an icebreaker.
look at this thing that I watched. This family's doing it, and they do it so well.
And play that clip. Let's all talk to that family right now directly.
Everybody look into your cameras and together
This is creepy.
share this podcast. It'll change your life. It'll it'll help you find a man.
Or a woman, whatever.
Just a man.
Only man.
That's the only proof we have.
His name starts with a C.
That's funny.
He has tattoos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like what you said, I honestly think probably us sharing the podcast just to like, I mean, yeah, it's
Well, you could start conversations that way, right?
yeah,
Like if you wanted to have this a conversation with your parent, I think a lot of parents could watch this and, like uh in all sorts of stages have empathy for the things that we talk about, and it could just be a conversation starter, like, for religion or divorce, specifically for the things that we're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip because, I mean, also like some people just like even just watching this is like beneficial, right?
Mhm.
Like not people don't necessarily need to like do it even like, and they can't always either, right? Like we were just saying, we have kind of personality types that we're able to.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes it can be discouraging if like you want to have a conversation and it doesn't go well like this, right? And then you feel like, well, why can't I? But it's like, I think just also knowing that you can have, yeah, I think showing it would be a great icebreaker to even see like how someone would respond or like what someone thinks about doing something like that. You could probably get a pretty good gauge of how open they are to doing it.
And we actually have had a couple of listeners tell us that just watching some of our episodes has been healing for them.
Thank you, the two of you.
Yes, it was too, actually.
And thinking about that perspective of someone watching this, like I do think just to make sure that it's understood, like we're able to do this, and we've said this, I think, on every podcast, right? This is really cool, like that we're able to do this. It is very unique. But I also feel like, hey, there needs to be an asterisk with that. Like, hey, like, but we're not perfect. Like we don't talk about everything. I still think there are things that are unsaid.
Yeah.
Like this is not a perfect family dynamic. We still, I think, hold back, and we probably still have unresolved issues even with each other. And so just like let there be comfort in that. You're like, hey, like this, we are not perfect, and we're just doing what we, by accident through mom's inspiration, of we're doing a little bit what we can to help, and like I don't know, I just don't want it to be discouraging either of like, oh man, but they can do this. They're honest, like, no, like, yeah, sure, all that, but there's also ghosts, there's also shadows, right? Like, we're not perfect. There's still things I think we'll continue to uncover and try to talk about that we don't venture to right now.
So I feel like even if you can't, or someone that you want to talk to isn't willing to, or they're not alive anymore, I think there are still ways to like learn from these conversations, or just like be willing to have the conversation with yourself, or write a letter to your mom or to your dad or your sibling or whoever it is, and begin that communication. Because I feel like, yeah, there's lots of ways to do what we're doing right now, and it doesn't have to look like this. But I feel like you just being open and willing to like have the conversation, even if it just is with yourself or your spirit ancestors or whoever, like it's going to create change. And maybe you won't see it right away, but I definitely believe that it will.
One more thing too. If you're watching this, you probably know one of us. So like reach out too. Like I think all of us are pretty willing to like talk about
I
anything
like that.
that we've talked about on here in more detail. Like if you or like, oh wow, Jared, you're really vulnerable about this, or Heather, you were really vulnerable about this. Like Josh won't talk to you, but like Heather and I will, and Ben and Liz will, and Mom for sure will.
Thanks, everyone.
Love you all.
Love you.
Thanks everyone for listening. Remember,
Bye.
Josh, what did we say?
Smash that like button and hit subscribe. Ding, 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 ding.
Brr, 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 brr. Brr, brr.